Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
It's crazy to think that it's been 7 years since Daniel Bryan was in the main event of WrestleMania with the Yes Movement, and it's been 6 years since his retirement. Bryan made a miraculous return to the ring in 2018 and has been one of the consistently best things in WWE ever since, because, well, he's Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan's the best. And at the age of 39, there still seems to be a lot in the tank for D-Bryan, considering that WWE Champion Drew McIntyre is only 4 years younger than him, and Drew's TLC contender AJ Styles is 4 years older than him. Interestingly though, in an interview with BT Sport, Bryan revealed that his WWE contract is up soon. But before we all get too excited about the Daniel Bryan to AEW hype train, Daniel Bryan to AEW, he added in the interview that he's got plans of going part-time with WWE and will instead focus on being a father to his kids. He said, "We're looking at transitioning me to maybe less than a full-time wrestler. Like my time of being a full-time wrestler are numbered, and I'm more going to be a full-time dad, part-time wrestler." Maybe he could transition to NXT, which is what Finn Balor, Ember Moon, Drake Maverick, and Killian Dane have all done recently. And a new member of that main roster crew has joined those ranks. Mercedes Martinez has had an interesting run with WWE, being part of both their Mae Young Classics and having several matches on NXT in 2017. But despite reports that she would sign with the company, a contract never materialized, leading to Martinez appearing in the Casino Battle Royale for All Elite Wrestling. And if by some strange coincidence, shortly after this appearance, WWE picked up the phone and offered her a deal. She was part of the Robert Stone brand for a brief spell and was then called up to the main roster on Raw, a dreaded sign for any NXT call-up, made worse when they renamed her Retaliation and put her in Retribution with T-Bar, Mace, Bebop, and Rocksteady. However, after just a couple of weeks, Martinez was quietly dropped from the group, and this week returned to NXT to attack current Women's Champion Io Shirai, which feels like a major step up. Mercedes' return to NXT only adds to their stacked women's division, and it gives Io Shirai an even tougher challenge if she hopes to hold on to that title. Someone else who was removed from TV with little reason is Lars Sullivan, but now we may know the reported reason for this. And no, it's not because of those forum posts, or his Instagram DMs, or that movie. Lars made his return to SmackDown back in October, but hasn't been mentioned since the brand split. He was getting a big monster push, complete with a grunting interview with Michael Cole. And Dave Meltzer has speculated on Wrestling Observer Radio that this could be the reason he was taken off TV. Meltzer notes that SmackDown is already pushing Roman Reigns as the unbeatable heel on the show, and they don't need to, which I guess is sort of a good reason. Anyway, it's time for me to review this week's AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. On Tuesday's Impact Wrestling, Tony Khan invited members of the Impact roster to come to Dynamite for this week's Holiday Bash or the 2 New Year specials they're running over the next couple of weeks. Well, if you were expecting someone to show up this week, they didn't. It was just a normal show. A normal show that kicked off with a really fun tag match between MJF and Chris Jericho of Inner Circle taking on the young upstarts Top Flight. This Dynamite aired after the start of the new NBA season. Touchdown! And having Jericho open the show is a smart way to potentially bring in new eyes to the product who might still be watching after the final whistle of the basketball thing. Jake Hager provided some distraction, allowing MJF to hit the Heat Seeker for the win. Top Flight are an amazing team for such a young age. After the match, Hager announced that he'd be facing Wardlow next week in a battle of the staring hosses. Sting cut a good promo with Tony Schiavone where he put over his relationship with Dusty Rhodes, which is why he wanted to be part of All Elite Wrestling. Team Taz came out to interrupt, and Darby Allin jumped into the ring to stand side by side with the Stinger in a really cool visual. While Darby is set to take on Brian Cage for the TNT Championship in a few weeks, it feels like a 6-man tag of Sting teaming with Cody and Darby versus Team Taz is on the horizon. Speaking of 6-man action, the Dark Order's 5'10" and Colt Cabana took on Jurassic Express in another fun match. The action was thick and fast, ranging from comedy with Marco Stunt, flippy doodah with Jungle Boy, and big stiff kicks by Luchasaurus. Dark Order did get a really good near fall, but in the end Jurassic Express picked up the win. Tully Blanchard and FTR cut a promo on the big screen, telling them they're having a match in a couple of weeks. In a genuine sign of emotion, MJF said that he was sorry to hear about Santana's recent family loss and that he was here for him if he needed. It was really sweet, and it's was another step in MJF working hard to prove that he should be part of this inner circle group. But killing it in the promo game this week was Kenny Omega, who is worried that he's going to end the career of Rey Fenix next week because Phoenix has choked in all of their other title matches, and that was when Kenny wasn't pissed off. Callis even cut a promo on Tony Khan in all of this, and it got me super pumped for their match next week. Honestly, I love this duo. Pac beat the Butcher with the Black Arrow despite Butcher taking most of the match because he's a big man hoss. And I know Ollie has called him Dr. Robotnik on this show before, but to me, I can't look at him and not think of Dick Strawbridge from Escape to the Chateau. I just think he's going to make a fire pit out of an old oil drum he found at a skip or something. Jade Cargill cut a promo on Brandy Rhodes wanting some real competition, and Miro, Kip Sabian, and Penelope Ford,
that is a beautiful name, Penelope,
announced their wedding will take place on Beach Break in February. They also pulled a prank faking out that best friends would interrupt, which wasn't possible as they'd sent Trent to the hospital. This was good heel work, but this feud has been going on for months now, like since September. I am ready for them to have a match now. In a storyline I imagine only two people care about, Dustin Rhodes beat Evil Uno of the Dark Order. So that should be the end of it, right? Well, they brawled after the match, so I guess not. Sean Spears cut a brilliant promo about how he's hitting the same glass ceilings in AEW that he did in WWE, seemingly breaking off his relationship with Tully Blanchard and ditching the loaded glove gimmick. We've seen a lot of reinvention of Spears since he joined AEW, so I just hope that this one sticks. Hikaru Shida quickly beat Alex Gracia and looked great doing it, and then brawled with Abaddon, who was at ringside looking genuinely terrifying. And during this brawl, Abaddon took a chunk out of Shida's neck. I mean, it makes more sense than when Shayna Baszler did it. Can you believe that was this year? And in the main event, the Young Bucks put their tag team titles on the line against the Acclaimed in a really good main event that featured an amazing near fall off a low blow and boombox spot that followed a ref bump. In the end though, the Bucks hit the BTE trigger for the win. But this was more about showing off the Acclaimed, who also got a rap promo during the show, and they succeeded in making them feel like future champion contenders. So that was this week's AEW Dynamite. In about 5 minutes, make sure you follow us on Twitter to vote in our poll on a poll match, where 46.7% of you voted for good and 32.4% voted for excellent. I agree that this episode should be in the higher part of that poll, as there was nothing bad on it. Even the Dustin stuff, which I'm not personally into, was decent wrestling. This week's AEW Dynamite is a good 3 out of 4. Tomorrow is Christmas, which means there won't be a WrestleTalk news episode or the podcast with myself and Denise. There also won't be a SmackDown review as that falls on Boxing Day, but we still have a bunch of great video content for you over the next couple of days. Myself, Ollie, and Pete will count down the top 10 best wrestlers of 2020, and Adam Blompier will join Ollie and myself to talk about the best matches and pay-per-views of the year too. We'll count down the biggest rumored WWE plans for 2021, look at 10 insane injuries that happened live on TV, and talk about WWE's worst matches of the year. And of course, there'll be the annual Christmas special, which this year is 3 hours long and is just as unwatchable as ever. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for watching WrestleTalk this year, a year that has been tough on a lot of us. You've been very welcoming to some of our more visual and stylistic changes, and we are really humbled by your continued support. We genuinely couldn't have done this without you. Thank you, Swap Nation, and have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. What are some of the most embarrassing bloopers to have happened on WWE TV live this year? Click the video on screen to find out more, and check out Ollie Davis's news from yesterday about those major SmackDown spoilers. I've been Luke Owen. Jam that jam.